UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. Once again, a very special guest today. Karin Wilkinson joins us. We published her book, but the book is incredible, and we have a special going on with this book. You get the book, and you get my book, UFO Update, for free, UFO Disclosure for free. So you're going to want to check this out. It's an important interview, and I'm honored to do it, and we'll get into that. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Folks, there seems to be bad turbulence ahead. The economy is a minefield right now, ready to detonate and destroy the wealth and dreams of the unprepared. Bank failures, de-dollarization, debt, but amidst the chaos, a beacon of hope emerges. Kevin Sorbo, screen legend Hercules, Christian actor, and outspoken activist for the people. With his economic crisis toolkit, crafted in a partnership with the experts at Noble Gold, Sorbo is now on a mission to help everyday Americans navigate the coming nightmare, the coming financial nightmare. This shockproof toolkit is your compass through the turmoil, with recession-proof strategies, inflation-busting techniques, and opportunity-seizing skills to help you not just survive, but thrive in the bedlam. The crisis threatens to derail your financial future, but you can now stay on track and emerge stronger than ever. And the best part? The shield of knowledge is yours, absolutely free. Folks, don't become another casualty. Enlist in Sorbo's Wealth Warrior ranks today and arm yourself with the tools and tactics you need to protect your hard-earned assets. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com, and sign up for the Economic Crisis Toolkit. Hey, folks, thanks for sticking with us, and I'm here with Karin Wilkinson. Karin, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me, Ellie. It's always an honor to be here on your show with you. Thank you.
The honor is all mine. You sent me a couple of articles this week, and that's what we'll talk about this. And you know, what was the first? Just tell us what the first article was and why you felt led to send it to me.
Yeah, the first one was an article that was outlining a report that came out of Harvard University. A group of scientists out of Harvard, and one of them was actually out of another university in Montana. And the report is called A Crypto-Terrestrial Hypothesis, a case for scientific openness to a concealed earthly explanation for unidentified anomalous phenomenon. In layman terms, they're saying, that we think the aliens that everyone's talking about are possibly living underground. And it's kind of a philosophy meets theology paper. And it's really just, they say it's not based on fact, it's not based on if they found anything, but they want to start this conversation. And I thought that was really interesting because it was reported on a Fox News channel, brought to my attention by Dana Louise on Facebook. And the fact that they're bringing these things back to the mainstream media again and saying, hey, we should really start talking about this. We don't have any proof, but we think it's important, and here's why. And then they went on for 48 pages in very small print to explain all of the reasons why they think we should start having these conversations. So why are they doing this now? Why are they having these conversations now? You know, what's so different now when before it was the stuff of just high strangeness and, oh, we're not going to talk about that. Now suddenly it's involved in national security and science. So that, and the other article was, I've got the title here, I'll have to look at it. It was UFOs soar from taboo to presidential. The time has come to inject UAPs into the elections. So, yeah, once again, trying to bring it back into mainstream media, trying to get people to say, if you want to elect so-and-so president, ask them to disclose information. And I just think it's so interesting because for years, we couldn't even talk about these things.
It was taboo.
Yeah, it's so taboo. Someone like me to come forward and say, hey, I've been taken against my will, kidnapped, abducted, raped against my will. And people look at you like, you're crazy, go home. And now all of a sudden they're talking about it in the hallowed halls of Congress and on Fox News and CNN and wherever else they're putting these things. I just think it's interesting that it's bubbling to the surface yet again.
And this is, if I may, this is why your book is so absolutely important. Folks, if you've not read this book, what are you waiting for? I mean, we have a special. So you get Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, plus as a bonus, you get my book, UFO Disclosure, for what is it, 1995, whatever it is, 1999. I mean, what are you waiting for? Do your homework. Karin, you know, this is what's, if we had talked about your book, let's say go back 30 years. Now, there were people talking about this. Whitley Strieber was talking about it and others. But, I mean, your book is so timely because you bring to the table this whole experience through a Christian lens. And that's what's important. Speak to that, please.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, when I wrote the book, what seemed to be missing to me out there was no one was writing this from a biblical lens. No one was writing this through the eyes of what do we know? What do we have in ancient texts, ancient scrolls, ancient literature, the Bible and others that explains who and what these things are and makes those connections that brings it into our world, so to speak, so that it helps us to understand why they operate the way they do and what they're after. And by creating an environment where you can look at it from a biblical lens, you can understand, well, the Bible already talks about all these things, about how the angels and what they were created for and who and what they are, and then how they operate and maneuver between realms, between our realm and their heavenly realms where they reside. And when you look at it from that point of view and from just the mountains of evidence in our biblical literature, it all starts to make sense. And it helps to expand people's paradigm to allow the fact that these entities are out there and that they're deceptive in what they're doing. It allows that to kind of start to fit into the paradigm.
It doesn't bother me. It's not troublesome. But what is, I'm kind of groping for, because it is bothersome and it is troublesome on some level, the fact that we really don't hear from the Christian viewpoint. We hear from Avi Loeb, Harvard University, you know, the scientists are going to tell us exactly what's going on. Well, if it's supernatural, if it's spiritual, then this is our wheelhouse. This is why, you know, we published your book. This is why we have 10 films on the whole UFO phenomenon. And you are, if dare I say, you're the star of number 4 on abductions. And I'm going to throw a scripture out to the folks. You know, Daniel chapter 2, verse 43 basically states this, that their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. The word cleave, I got this from Jim Wilkinson, is the same word that we get in the Genesis narrative when a man leaves his father and mother and cleaves to his wife. There's no marriage contract, and that's exactly, we see the mingling of the seed. This is why Genesis 3:15 is paramount in our understanding of the rest of the biblical narrative. But the angel is talking to Daniel thousands of years ago, and he gives us what I would call a supernatural clue. Men will run to and fro over the face of the earth, knowledge will increase. It's flatline. That doesn't happen until the modern era. We're here. The abduction phenomena as we know it today, started, in my opinion, right around 1940. Now, I'm not saying the mingling of the seed happened before that. Abductions have been going on. But I believe the breeding program really kicked off in the 40s. Specifically, Israel becomes a nation. The atom bomb happens because and this is sort of a long intro, and I'll get to the question. But the hybrid beings seem to be, there's an evolution. You get the first ones that you see in the 80s, where they're very sickly looking. They look more alien, huge eyes, blonde hair, that type of thing. Then it changes into the short, stocky ones, the black-eyed kids, and then finally it changes into where they can pass as human beings, and this is in the 21st century. This is where we are. So you were taken, you were abducted, you were kidnapped, you were abused. And this is why your story is so critical, because it hails back to the Daniel 2:43, the mingling of the seed. And this is the question. There is a physicality to this. This is not demonic delusion. This is right in Scripture. Speak to that, please.
Oh, yes, definitely. This is not demonic delusion. We are people just like myself, who I talk to and communicate with via social media and email and at conferences every day. People just like me, we go through these physical abductions. We have the physical scars and the emotional scars to prove it. It is not just demonic delusion. Too many of us have the same types of encounters for this to be something that's just some random thing that we're coming up with out of the blue. And these aren't things that you can just come up with. The details, the things we remember, the things we've experienced, they're too elaborate. They're too intense. The emotions are too real. What we see is too tangible. And then you look at what's out there in our society as far as UFOs and ufology and all of that. There's another conference, I think now another one called something like Full Disclosure Now or something. And all of these conferences are all very New Age based. And I'm not disparaging anyone's belief systems, but what I'm saying is no one is taking this and looking at it from a biblical perspective and from the perspective of how do you protect yourself, looking at who and what they really are and the dangers that these things possess. Instead, they're opening it up and saying, let's go welcome them in and bring them in.
That's, with all due respect to Stephen Greer, and he's welcome to come on the show and defend himself, and we're not going to disparage him here. But in our opinion, and I know you agree with me on this, he's leading people down a very dangerous path by telling them to open themselves up. This is all benevolent. Well, your story, and this is why the book, folks, the book is really, really important. Do your homework. For crying out loud, do your homework. I realize times are tough. That's why we're doing a deal with this. But, you know, Karin lived it. And she is the star or the tentpole of our abduction film. And this is why it's important, because your testimony goes completely 180 degrees from what Stephen Greer is telling us. Speak to that, please.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it scares me to see what is being fed to the population through these very popularized groups of people who are putting other people in danger by not giving them the truth. I don't see people like you and me who are people who, like yourself, are experts in this field, people like me who have actually had these encounters and actually worked through how to stop them. And I don't see people like us on those stages talking to the people, sharing our very valid information, because it doesn't go along with what they're trying to share, and what they're doing is so dangerous. I mean, it's not from a biblical lens. They're not letting people know once you open the door to these entities, they're attached to you. And you warn about this on your show over and over again about objects and entities that people get attached to or that attach to people. I warn people in every interview that I do, you're bringing this to your family, your friends, your children. That's right.
You're opening a door.
Yeah, I mean, would you throw your child out in the backyard if you saw a couple rattlesnakes out there? No. Well, this is no different. It's dangerous. And if you don't have the right tools to protect yourself, you're not just putting yourself in danger, you put everyone you know in danger. And the Bible tells us men will perish for lack of knowledge. It's our responsibility to have that knowledge and to share that knowledge with whoever will listen. And unfortunately, most people don't want to hear it.
And I concur with you completely. The last UFO conference that I spoke to that was a secular conference was in Utah. And I have to tell you something. I was shunned by several of the other speakers, pushed off. Oh, he's got a religious background. And I mean, one guy, won't mention his name, sat across the aisle from me on the return flight home, because he was also based out in California. Wouldn't even say good morning. I mean, completely shunned me. And this is what I've seen, that, you know, people on the other side of the aisle, you know, claim to be so open-minded, except when it comes to someone like you and someone like me who's saying, not so fast, citizen, this phenomena has a very dark underbelly. Now, I'm going to speak to something, and this is emotional for you. It's alarming to me. And I believe Gil Zimmerman, my business partner, and he's the co-director. We do all of our films together now. And by the way, today is June 19th, this is a pre-record with Karin. This is the day 5 years ago, my ex-business partner, Richard Shaw, passed away very unexpectedly on the operating table. So it's, you know, in some ways it's a tribute to Rick. Rick and I did 11 films together, and then there was a period of time where we kind of went our separate ways, and we were coming back to maybe work together again, and then he passed away. And then after that, Gil Zimmerman shoots me an email, and the rest is history. I think Gil and I have done 6 films together, and we're on the trail and we're doing more. So it's great the way the Lord picks things up. But isn't it interesting, Karin, that, and you talk about this in number 4, in the abduction film, and your body language, your facial expressions says it all. I mean, I remember interviewing you, and I didn't know you then. You know, you came up, and we had emailed, and this is in Dallas years ago, and we had 2 cameras going. My son-in-law, John Adam Hicks, is there, and he's filming, and when you left the room, I just went, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe the testimony. You talk about being impregnated by them, and these are not our space brothers, 3 different times, and they took I'm not going to call it a baby, I'm going to call it a hybrid, because that's what it is. Speak to that, please.
Yes, it was, that was a very, very traumatic, those were very traumatic events in my life. To become pregnant as a woman, when you're pregnant, your body feels different. It affects every part of you physically and emotionally. And at 3 months in, and I was married at the time, so it wasn't unusual for me to get pregnant. I went to a doctor. My pregnancy was confirmed with blood tests and all the things they did back then. I knew I was pregnant. My body was different. And then at 3 months in, I started to spot, and nothing happened at home. I didn't lose anything. But, I went to the hospital that night because I had terrible pain, and they couldn't find a heartbeat, and they couldn't find a baby on the ultrasound. So they did what's a D&C, which is a procedure where they go in and they clean your uterus out to make sure that nothing's left behind, that you don't get an infection or anything in there, and also to find out what happened to your baby.
Right.
And my uterus was clean. There was no fetal tissue. It was clean. And this happened to me multiple times, that I didn't have a baby to mourn. I didn't have a baby to bury. I didn't know what happened. Did I do something wrong? Did they do something? What happened to me? And then having then later had an interaction with these non-human entities where I got to see and hold one of my non-human hybrid babies, knowing what they were doing to me, having to go to a doctor, having to go through this pain. You can't tell the doctor this. No. They don't want to hear that. It would not fit into anything. What they would do is send me upstairs to a psych ward.
Exactly. See, this is so problematic because, I've known about this and studied it and read about it and talked to other people like yourself. I remember talking to Karina Sables, and that's in our book, Further Evidence, that sit-down interview with Karina. And, she basically says on the record that she thought this was all normal. She thought that everyone went through this. Every kid went through this, and she's being taken and abducted, and they're taking the child and the whole deal. And it goes right back into the Daniel 2:43. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men. This is why, if we don't understand Genesis 3:15, where Jesus says to the serpent, to the dragon, your offspring, your seed, will be at war with the seed of the woman. That's the whole Bible. It's everything. And now in modernity, this thing is kicked off. And, it'd be interesting to try to do a study on the abduction and hybridization. When did it really kick in? Because, when did it really kick in? And in my opinion, I think you can make a case that it kicks in the late 40s, right after Israel becomes a nation. That's where everything just explodes and ramps up. I'm going to throw something at you here. In our 6th film, which is on cattle mutilations, which was the darkest film I have ever worked on. And for those of you who don't know what this is, it's a very dark underbelly of the UFO phenomena. And I'm going to go down a rabbit trail. Karin, rescue me if I don't come back out.
Okay.
Please. But what people don't understand, that this has been going on for decades with the cattle mutilations. And blood is taken, sex organs are cored out, eyes are cored out, genetic materials cored out, and it's been going on literally for decades. And no one has ever law enforcement has never brought anyone to justice, not even at charge. And in our film, we interviewed people, Rancher Miller, who lost 16 head of cow in 20 years. That's almost one a year, almost, right? And very, very disturbing film, not for the faint of heart. But we came up with something. When I say we, I believe the Holy Spirit led me in this. And I don't think any other researcher has ever put this forward. Now, I could be wrong in that, and I've stated that statement publicly several times. Your baby, your hybrid entity, which is what I prefer to call it, was taken, a mingling of the seed, no marriage contract, in the 3rd month. Bovine blood, cow blood, can be used in human transfusions. The genetic material, in my opinion, is to create an artificial womb for the hybrid entity, which is taken from your womb. It goes from your womb into the artificial womb. Speak to that. And I realize this is the deep, before you give the answer, folks, this is the deep end of the pool. I mean, it really is. This is the deep end of the pool, and a lot of people in the New Age won't even go there. This is how dark and nefarious this thing is. Karin, speak to that, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, we know cattle mutilations are happening, like you said, and we know that they have not found anyone to be accountable, and the ways that these are happening are very, very unusual. And when it comes to artificial wombs, we also know that we can create artificial wombs. So it is not something that is outside of feasibility.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to utilize a substance to nurture these fetuses when they're stolen from a woman's body.
Stolen, right.
They're going to be able to they're going to need a medium to continue to nourish and grow that fetus.
Right.
And just the way we feed our children cow's milk, bovine blood can be used in operations for humans as well. And I believe that's what they are using. I saw tanks in these facilities where they took me, these underground tanks. And these tanks had what looked like some sort of embryonic fetuses in them. I don't know what they were. Were they human? They were definitely not human, but they were hybrids. But hybrids of what? And the liquid looked red. Now that area was very dark red backlighting in that area. I could never tell where lights were coming from. It was always but it looked red. Could that have been bovine blood? Yeah, absolutely. But that's speculation on my part. But do I think it's possible? Oh, very much so. Very much so. They were fascinated with anything that had to do with blood, that had to do with sex, that had to do with, us as humans, and how, they had me hold that baby.
Right.
Because they wanted to see if it would respond to me, and it wouldn't. And for me, that was like it was like holding a brick of clay. It just wouldn't respond. And I knew something was wrong with it. But, I looked at that baby and I'm like, I know I can see resemblance. I know this is mine. And I was going to take it home. I was determined I was taking that baby with me, and I was going to fix it. I didn't have the knowledge. No one was teaching what you teach people. No one was saying, look, these are hybrids. These are modern day Nephilim.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. I didn't know that. As a mom, I was just going to take it home, and I was devastated when I got very belligerent with them and was not letting go. And then the next thing I woke up and I'm back at home and I'm in my bed and I don't have that baby and I'm just hysterical. And then who do I tell? Who do I call and say, hey, they won't let me have that baby? I mean, there's no one to even talk to, and it's those kinds of things where they're toying with our emotions.
Right.
Oh, it's not okay. It's not okay. And if people think this is just a joke or a lie, talk to a couple people. You would be hard pressed to throw a stone and not find a couple people who've been through this.
This is why. And again, I'm pushing the film number 4. We probably should do, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, and then have number 4 with it, because I think that would, in some ways, that's a better offer, because it gets into Al Matthews' testimony, Emil Jurek's testimony, and Angela Beckman's testimony. Yes. All of them were taken. I mean, we're not making this stuff up. There's a physicality to it. Sperm is taken from the men. Ovum is taken from the women. I mean, this is a breeding program, and it goes back to Genesis 3:15. There is a physicality to it. There's a very dark underbelly to the whole phenomenon. Karin, thanks so much for coming on. I'm going to give you the last word, then I'll close this out.
Thank you. I had a conversation with Al Matthews just last night, and he and I, the one thing that just really gets to us and hurts our hearts is that there are all these people out there talking about this and doing all these things, but they've never experienced this. They've never gone through this. And then they're negating all the things that we know are true.
Right.
And I'm just so grateful that you are helping us to get the truth out about who and what these things are and what we need to do to protect ourselves. Because there is a world of so-called experts out there who have no idea what they're talking about.
I
and
agree.
Are spreading lies and falsehoods, and it just makes me so upset and so angry that they're doing this and that they're getting this massive amounts of attention. I'm not doing this for money or fame or attention. I'm trying to help, and I'm trying to share the truth, and I'm trying to share the message. And thank you for allowing me a platform to do that. It means so much. Thank you.
Karin, thank you. Folks, here it is, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. We're going to team up with Karin on this, and you can get my book, UFO Disclosure, absolutely for free. So you're really getting 2 books for the price of 1. There it is. So perfect. So that was unscripted, by the way, folks. But way to go, Karin.
Always have it handy. This is a great book. Y'all should have this. It's a great reference material. I love this book, and I always have it on my desk.
You know what?
Yeah.
It's folks, it's time to do your homework. It's time to do your homework. It really is. Because the whole UFO phenomena is real, burgeoning, and not going away. And we have, Karin and myself, we have the material that you need to present to your loved ones, to your friends, to the skeptics, whatever, everything from a biblical prophetic narrative. It's right here. Check it out, www.lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com. The special is up. Karin, thanks so much for coming on the record. As always, it's an honor to just to talk with you, and we're going to have you back. And the next time, we're going to do that special with number 4, because I think the 2 would really go well together.
Great. Well, thank you. It's always an honor to be here with you, LA. Take care.
God bless.
What happens if a mile-wide craft shows up above Washington? Who's behind it?
Well, at some level, the government, the military, and the intelligence community.
It is a threat, and it's going to soon become a global threat, and it's going to require a global response.
The UFO phenomenon has become the great off-putting.
We're going to get disclosure accidentally.
An interesting time to be alive. We live in a time where literally the government told us these UFOs are real, we don't know what they are.
The question then is, who are they in contact with? Are they truly extraterrestrial? Has mankind been visited by inhuman entities?
What are your closing thoughts in regard to disclosure?
Floodgates are open, and all bets are off right now.
They're definitely conditioning the masses for some kind of revealing of technology.
We're being visited by extraterrestrials.
If you look at the late night talk hosts, when they're talking to all the presidents, and they always bring up the question, are you going to tell us anything? If you look at their faces, they know something.
Folks, the phenomenon is not going away. We go up, they show up. We go up, they come down. To warn of what we believe is the coming Great Deception.